Welcome to online tutorial 11. We are definitely getting towards the end of the semester, which is, I think, good news for everybody, right? It's been a strange semester, very different type of contact from an educator's perspective. Don't always know if things are getting through, if things are making sense. So I appreciate those of you who have reached out and asked questions and sort of look for confirmation and clarity around issues. There'll be more Zoom sessions. I suspect they'll start next week. And the same as I've done before, they'll be during the day and there'll be generally one in the evening to enable those students who are either working during the day and or who are overseas to be able to ask questions and get a bit of a sense of any issues they may have with the final learning report. Outside of that, by all means email me, not a problem at all. So look, today's tutorial is a little bit inspired by a few of the questions I've been getting. It relates to section 1 in terms of how to sort of visualize in your own thinking the change that we're looking for you to go about doing. So I'm not going to cover the entire section 1. I'm just going to get inside the bits that relate to and matter when you're talking about the operational environment. So when you're thinking about the operational environment, it's always important to remember first that there's an external environment. Everything happens in an environment, okay? And what we talked about in the first workshop was that many of the things that are in the environment just simply don't matter, right? There are lots of businesses out there that are actually doing just fine. The coronavirus hasn't actually had much of an impact on them at all, right? If you look at the local supermarkets, they've actually sold more, right? They've had to do things in different ways, but they're not complaining about having lost money, right? If you're a delivery driver, maybe you're actually now delivering more than you did previously, okay? And then, of course, there are businesses and industries that have been massively hit, all right? So the factors in the external environment don't equally apply to all things. So your idea is, you need to think of your idea as not being something that just sits in the external environment with everyone else. We need to quarantine off your idea from all of those unrelated factors, and that's why we talk about an operational environment. Where would your idea be operationalized? Okay? So to create that balance between what matters positively and negatively, we talk about an ecological dimension. That's the things that support your idea. So in the case of nature, it could be the sun that's shining down and providing all the energy that's required to enable the growth of a tree to occur, right? So it's all the positive things that are working in your favor. Alternatively, every idea also has a selective dimension, all right? And those are the things that are naturally working against your idea. Okay, so and the sun itself could become part of the selective dimension, because if there's no rain, then the sun itself could lead to exacerbate a drought, right? So these things aren't just locked in, and they're always good or they're always bad. There can be this balancing thing that goes between them, all right? And your challenge is to try and make sense for your idea. What does your operational environment look like? So you should have done that in the interim learning report. You should have discussed where you see the balance of things, okay? And hopefully through the process of value creation or value shop or value networks and any combination of those, you've been able to talk about how you believe you could create your value around your idea and capture it, okay? So we talk about the creation of the value as being possible because of who's in your group in terms of your resource profile, the initial acceptance in terms of legitimacy of your idea, your understanding of the process of value selection and retention in terms of how ideas come in and supported or not supported. The fact that you understand that means that you can create a good value creation strategy which will enable you to take advantage of those elements, those aspects of the ecological dimension which underwrite the potential for your idea success, okay? And the dimension, the ecological dimension we're envisaging is going to be something that you can navigate and be more powerful than those factors in the selective dimension. Okay, so that was where we sort of got to. All right, now we move on from that and we say, okay, well, we're going to assume there's no financial capital, so you simply just can't assume that you can have money. And everybody who's talking about an app, well, most good apps for a lot of the things that you guys want to do might cost $50, $60, $80, $100,000. So if you don't have any financial capital, how are you going to do that? You can't just assume that you can create the app, okay? You've got to work out how. How would you be able to make that happen, all right? So a good way of working beyond the limitations of financial capital, which essentially every entrepreneur faces, is to think about emergy and coactions. All right, they can be very interrelated, these two things. The emergy is where you're going to try to work out, maybe there could be factors you've already discussed in the ecological dimension, but what we'd love to see you do is to think about other things that you hadn't already thought about, which at the moment you've placed in the external environment. There are other factors which are not really coming into your consideration in terms of being locked into that operational environment as yet. But maybe there's some government policy. Maybe there's some other initiatives out there. Maybe there's some things happening from the ground up that you can tap into. Maybe there are organisations out there that you can form relationships with. Maybe there are other stakeholder groups that you can develop some positive coactions with, right? Whatever the case is, what we're looking for you to do is to imagine how energy, sources of energy, and coactions can become a bigger part of your ecological dimension. And in doing so, increase the relative contribution or importance of the ecological dimension to your idea relative to the selective dimension. All right? It's not that in reality that dimension, the selective dimension, got smaller, but its relative contribution or impact on your idea is less than the ecological environment that you're tapping into, because you've really got things there working for you. It could be through the coordination of other stakeholders through some coactions, or it could be tapping into a strategic initiative, or simply just finding a vibe that is now present in the community. Now, I would definitely encourage you to think about hypothetical bridges here, because it's not always possible to think of a source of energy, but you can do it in the reverse. You can say, well, what would the world have to look like in order for my idea to succeed? Well, if this happened and that happened, okay, well, how can I logically explain that? Well, you can logically explain that by using a hypothetical bridge. If this was to occur, then we would be able to take advantage of this, and we would be able to do it, and we would do that. So that's great, right? However, to make that all possible, you have to revisit your original assumptions about value creation and value capture. So we're expecting that as you identify energy sources, as you're moving through from the beginning of the final learning report, and potential areas of coaction, that will initiate a revising of how you see value being captured and created through either value chains, value shop, value network. All right? If you're proposing exactly the same process of value creation and capture, but you're introducing energy, then that won't make any sense. Something has to. And it could just be you're using the same processes, but you've managed to amplify or make them a lot more logically. Because if you're not able to show the direct connection between the energy, the coactions, your processes of value creation, and your ecological dimension, when you get down to the bottom of the assignment and you have to write about this process of your revised CPS or COS statement and then telling us why it's more compelling, you're not going to have the ammunition. It's going to be more compelling because you've been able to do things with the value creation process in a different way, in a better way, in a more solid way. It's going to be more compelling because you've now been able to really zero in on those ecological factors in the operational environment that can really help you to overcome any of the factors in the selective environment. That's why it's going to be more compelling, okay? It's not just more compelling because you've written it a different way. It's more compelling because you can identify the positive factors which you're now harnessing and using to your advantage in a way that helps you to negate or bypass some of the factors that are present in the selective dimension, okay? So, in summary, think about how you now might need to look more broadly at the external environment, and are there other factors there that could relate to energy and coactions that you could draft in to your operational environment. In doing that, is it going to change the way that you perceive value could be created through value chain, value shop, value networks, combinations of? And how will that now change the relationship between the ecological dimension and selective dimension of your operational environment? If you can envisage all of that using hypothetical bridges where needed, then you should be well placed to be able to revise your CPS statement and then explain very explicitly why this new revised CPS statement, or COS statement, is more compelling than the one that you started your final learning report with, okay? Remember, where you finished the interim learning report with your CPS statement, that's now the starting point, right? So you should be well placed if you've been able to think that through. But to do it well, you won't be just isolating your thinking to what you already conceived as your operational environment. We would expect that you would look for other factors that are in the external environment that you can now envisage as becoming part of your revised operational environment. Okay? I hope that helps. And by all means, drop in on the upcoming Zoom sessions. I think the people who tended to do that, from what I could see, did quite well in the outcome of the interim learning report. You don't always have to ask a question. Sometimes you just come along and listen to what other people are doing. You might only drop in for 5 minutes and then disappear. We don't keep a roll, right? We're not worried about whether someone just comes in, asks one question, gets an answer and goes. That's not a problem. It's as it's convenient for you, all right? And failing that, by all means, contact me. However, can I ask you not to do this, right? Can I ask you not to contact me the day before the assignment's due to ask me the questions that for the last 2 weeks everyone's been discussing in the Zoom sessions? You've got to take some responsibility for the way you organise your way of getting this work done, all right? If you're unsure about something a day before the assignment, you are obviously unsure about it a week before the assignment. So hop on, make life easy for yourself so you're not doing it at the last minute, you're not doing it in a rush. Come on, have those conversations. They're designed there to help you so that you can actually make the best fist of being able to make sense of your idea, its operational environment, revisiting the external environment. Is there anything else you can bring in? And having your head around those factors, okay? Good luck, and as always, if you need anything, you know where to find me. Cheers.